Can you play the video, please? That is not that easy. So, my name is Gilberto Pinzon, co-founder of Education First, and what we are going to do today is we are going to share our experience of over 20 years on closing the gap between the theory and the practice, because we come to these events, to these conferences. We have been coming for decades, and we are always talking about the big need that we have to transform education. But to be honest, really, it's not happening. We are still stuck with that old model. We do little things here and there, but nothing really that really transforms education. So what we're going to talk is about our experience helping over 150 schools around the world, 8 countries, working with over 7,000 teachers, with over 50,000 students now already closing this gap, and how we have been able to get this gap closer and closer. Everything started with my wife, with Maria. We have been always passionate about education. I am a maximum professor surgeon. I've been a professor, university professor for many years, and she's a passionate educator. And we have been always thinking on what is going on with education, why we are still stuck with that old model. But what really moved us and pushed us to think and to do something when we had our children. This was 35 years ago, and we were already concerned because we want them as all parents. We want them to give them the tools, the values, the attitudes, the behaviors, the dispositions, the skills to succeed in life. And success is not about money. Success is about being able to accomplish whatever you set for your life. Having a balance, a meaning, a purpose, and adding value. What is incredible is that we were very concerned with all of this, with this old model, teacher-centered, where teacher is the owner of the knowledge, when we still use textbooks, which is unbelievable. When we see that in the classrooms the teachers are still teaching. And today there is nothing that a teacher can teach that a student can learn by him or herself, just using technology, and has been proved in several researches. So we are still stuck with that model. But what is incredible is that today we have our grandchildren, we are telling Sophia, and we are kind of scared that they are going to learn with the same educational model that my grandfather learned. So we have to do something, because this is what we still see around the world. Children uploaded with a lot of stuff, a lot of information, with a lot of these dots that are not connected. These kids cannot connect these dots. We are so obsessed with a standardized test that we forgot what is the real purpose of education. When we go to the schools and we go around the classrooms and we ask children, why are we learning that? Usually, the kids' response is, because my teacher said so. Because it's in the textbook. Because I'm gonna be tested about this next week. Or the most beautiful and wonderful answer is, because it's gonna help me when I grow up. And we know that most of that is not true, because we learn a lot of stuff, or we didn't even learn it. We memorized a lot of stuff that we never used in life. So we think that education has lost the reason for its fundamental purpose. And that is why we decided to explore, and explore not from one perspective, but having an eclectic mind. Because we have this tendency as human beings to align with one line of thought. I am a Montessori. I am a Reggio Emilia. I am this or that. So we started thinking and looking for different options, different perspectives. There are so many researchers, academics, investigators, thinkers, proposing different alternatives. So we started with this eclectic view and looking for what we thought will be ideal. So what is the real purpose of education? And let me go with this analogy, metaphor about Rafael Nadal. I bet many of you know who this guy is. He's probably one of the most accomplished tennis players and athletes in the world and in the history of tennis. And I was watching an interview of his trainer and uncle, Tony Nadal, who is not longer training and working with Rafa. So when the interviewer was asking Rafa, who are you training now? Since you are not longer with Rafa,
who are you training now? And Tony responded, nobody. How come? Nobody will hire me. How come nobody will hire you? You have the most accomplished, you raised the most accomplished athlete in tennis in the history. How come nobody will hire you? He said, because I don't know anything about tennis. The interviewer said that is impossible. He said, no, I don't know that much about tennis. I focus on raising a kid who could become a great human being, who could develop this great character, these values, these behaviors, so he could deal with any challenges in life and overcome whatever came to his life. So that was my focus. Not to develop a champion, but a great human being. So I'm bringing this because I think that this is what we have to do in schools. We need to stop preparing these kids for the SATs or the standardized tests, but to prepare them for life. And not just for life, but to be good people, ethical people, with values, great thinkers. So what is a good human being? For us, a good human being, and this is what the VES model is all about. VES, we are originally from Colombia, South America, so we speak, our first language is Spanish. So when my wife proposed this model, was when we spoke Spanish. So VES stands for Vida Equilibrada con Sentido y Sabiduría, which means meaningful life with balance and wisdom. So we think that a good human being is someone who is a balanced person, internally and externally. Balance in terms of emotions, spiritual balance, intellectual balance, physical balance. But it's also in balance with others, with nature, with the environment, with the context. It's someone who looks for meaning and purpose on everything he or she does. Why are we here? What is the purpose and the meaning of being here today? Why do I teach what I teach? Why I'm teaching this specific topic today to my students? Why? Because someone said so? Because it's in the textbook? Or because it's going to help this little one, this person, to better understand the world and to better understand him or herself? And also, a good person is someone who is wise. And we don't need to get old to become wiser. We can practice wisdom every day. Because for us, wisdom is choosing the right attitude, the right word for a specific moment or situation. It could be that I'm having an arguing with my wife, which never happens, with a friend, with someone I know or someone I don't know. But it's on me to choose the right word or to choose the right attitude. And if I choose this attitude or that attitude, it's going to totally have a different outcome. And it's on me. So I can be wise just by choosing the right answer or response. So for us, a good human being is someone who lives a meaningful life with balance and wisdom. Obviously, in order to be a good human being, I need knowledge. I need to know things. I need to know history. I need to know maths. I need to know sciences. But as a part of the complement of the whole person, not the main priority and purpose of a human being, which is only knowing a lot of stuff. So we think that we have to focus in schools to transform this view about education and the role of the educator and the role of the student. I hope you were able to see, and you saw when you were watching the video. This is a short video, only 2 minutes, and I don't have more than 25 minutes to tell you our story and to tell you how we have been working with schools to try to close the gap. But we want to change the roles in the classroom, because everybody says it should be student-centered. No, it should be learner-centered. And we should understand that the teacher is also a learner. So the teacher is not only a facilitator, he is a learner, or she is a learner also. We have to understand that in this world, the fast pace of this world is challenging everyone to become a learner. So we need to change this dynamic, the way we interact in the classrooms, the priorities, and so forth. We have to work on the humanization of the human being. We have to develop empathy, compassion, and deep understanding of myself and the others. Huge challenges. The fast pace of this world, not only on technology, but in sciences, are going to bring a lot of challenges, ethical challenges for us. So we need to develop human beings with that deep understanding and sense of values and ethics. Thinking. Yesterday I was attending one of the presentations, and I loved something that I heard from the presenter, and he said, we have been told to think, but not taught to think. We think that we know how to think. And we think somehow. But when you go into this subject and start learning, and we know that we can develop, and we all develop, something called habits of mind. We never heard about habits of mind until I was 40, 20 years ago. But we all develop habits of mind, but we don't know that. And we can develop good habits of mind or bad habits of mind. So we will have to work in the school, helping children to understand what a habit of mind is, and how we develop the right habits of mind, the right skills for thinking and for learning. We need to develop the learning to learn in this fast-paced world, and also this mindset, the growth mindset, because we need to become flexible and develop this adaptable mind, character and grit. So how do we do this? The first thing is we need to understand the change is a process. Schools if you allowed me, waste a lot of money on training. They bring trainers and trainers and trainers and workshops, and very little happens. Because transformation and change, it doesn't come overnight. We need to understand that this is a huge process. It's a huge effort and needs a lot of resources. So we need to work with schools, and so we have been working with schools in a 5 years plan with a strategic plan with a clear vision of what we want to do, we want to accomplish. Leadership is huge. Leadership makes the difference. When we see the right leadership, we know that that can be accomplished. Leadership is huge too when we face this challenge of transforming education and transforming schools. We need to generate something that we call rhythm. And it's something that if you want to read a book from Bernie Harnish about the Rockefeller habits, he talks about one of the habits which was generating rhythm, which is the collection of little events that maintain that momentum that when we go to a workshop, we all get excited. Wow, this was wonderful, great. A week after, we go back to real life and we forget all of that. So as part of the plan, we generate some strategies to maintain the momentum. We work with teachers, but not only educating them and with professional development, but with support, coaching, because it's not something that you can change overnight. We have been into this, involved and engaged in this model for life. First, as students. We were part of this model. Then we go to school, to college or university, and we reinforce the model. And then we go to the classrooms and practice. So it's hard to change those paradigms. So how do we do this? First, we have an educational model that is best. Is not only developing a good human being, but also developing a human being who can think and uses thinking for learning. So we implemented something that we call thinking as a pedagogical strategy. So you saw these children working with thinking maps, working with thinking routines, working with one we call probably you saw some keys, big keys. So they work with 9 thinking keys. So when they are addressing a new topic, they address that topic from different perspectives. So they are using their thinking to understand, not to memorize, but to understand. And they are developing simultaneously the thinking skills, the habits of mind. Also, so there is the educational model, but there is the implementation model. So they both work together. 8 stages of the implementation model, with the educational model, with the support, with the strategic planning and execution. So different 5 levels of training, support and coaching with virtual and on-site coaching. We work also with the leaders, because leadership is crucial to accomplish the transformation. So we work with teachers, we work with leaders, and we also, in order to make this sustainable, we develop trainers as part of the school. because the schools have turnovers as any other institution. So the school needs people in-house to maintain and to keep the model moving on. How do we make it sustainable? I love this quote. If the organization does not intentionally build the desired culture, it faces the risk of developing the undesired one. So we have to work on developing the right culture to sustain, to make the change and the transformation sustainable. Probably many of you, because it's great book, and it's one of the most important members of the Project Zero from Harvard University, Ron Richard. He has been working for decades on cultures of thinking. And why cultures of thinking? Because this framework helps teachers, leaders, administrators, students, and families to be part of the transformation and to achieve the goal. It's about changing the expectations, generating the opportunities to think, to learn, to use the time prioritizing what matters. And what matters is not, I am learning this because my teacher said so, but what matters is that I need to really understand this thing, and it takes time. And so forth and so on. So we go with all those 8 cultural forces that help us to develop the desired culture to make it sustainable. For what? For changing the way children approach learning. To make sense of those disconnected dots. To make sense with a meaningful and purpose on what education should be about. I will ask someone to help me to read this. Who can help me to read this? Do you mind? It's because my British pronunciation won't help.
I have a Dutch accent, but knowledge in the sense of information means working capital, the indispensable resources to continue asking, to discover, or to learn more stuff. It is often treated as an end in itself, and then the objective is transformed into stacking it or showing it when required. This ideal of knowledge, static and cold storage, is harmful for educational development. It doesn't just make opportunities to think wasted, but saturate the thought. Students who have filled their minds with all kinds of material to which they have never given it an intellectual use will surely be hindered when trying to think. They have no practice in selecting what is appropriate, no criteria to follow. Everything is on the same dead and static level.
Thank you so much. Well, it's incredible. This is very powerful. But what is incredible, it was said by John Dewey in 1916. And we are still stuck with this. So thank you very much. And I think that we have a few minutes for questions. Questions? Yes.
Okay, I'll just scream.
Hold on.
Oh, you have one. Better.
Okay, wonderful talk with lots of food for thought, and I actually agree really on most of the points. The main question is implementation. You started off with theory and practice. How do you actually do it and initiate this change?
How we actually do it?
How do you initiate the change in movement from...
Well, the thing is, you have to understand that it's a process. So how do we do it? We start talking to schools. We do a diagnosis on the stage of the school, and then we set up a plan for each specific school. But it's basically based on a 5 years plan. We start with professional development, with the first stage of training, and we do coaching to support the transformation. So it's not only giving the teachers. The first thing we do is to question paradigms, all the paradigms that we have, and we have developing and creating along the years. So the first three days of the workshop is to challenge paradigms, to give teachers concrete strategies to change the dynamics in the classroom from the first day. But we also do coaching to help them, and we generate some strategies like the ones I mentioned to create this rhythm and to take advantage of the momentum that we create with the workshop. And also we have a platform full of resources where 150 schools, all those not all of them, but some of those 7,000 teachers, they upload their own videos using the strategies, using the tools, so they can help other teachers to transform their own practices. I don't know if I answered the question. This is just one of the ways we do it.
We are all learners. So my background is early childhood. And with small children, with little children, you start with concrete things. And we adults, we also need those concrete things. So we start with moving the floor. Like, there are lots of things happening in the world. Let's think about our paradigms. Where are we? Let's have practical tools to go and start practicing. We have a saying that is that we are teaching the children, and the parents, and the government is whatever, and we're always pointing with one finger, but there are 3 fingers that are pointing to us. So with the excuse of using the practical tools for the children, actually, there are many of those tools that are really teaching us to understand that children do think, that children do have a voice, that children are capable of collaborating. So we start with a practical view, and then there's what is the purpose of what we're doing. So there are different levels that go deeper and deeper in the understanding and help the teachers see themselves and learn as learners and give themselves permission to learn in the process. But the first thing is to mobilize, and there's lots of things, and there are concrete things. So there's a strategy behind the process. Obviously, we're working with the schools because some of the schools have already done a lot of things. So what have you done? Where are your teachers? And let's differentiate, because it depends where your teacher is. There are some teachers that are very resistant, and there are others that by themselves are already making the move. So that's more or less what we...
First, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. And I just would like to ask you to share a success story, because the key thing is how do you convey, because the way that you discuss about a learner-centered approach is wonderful. But again, we are coping with a system that is so resistant to change. Yes. And so can you please share with us some story that you already been successfully deliver this model in some of the school system in U.S. or in any other country?
Okay, I don't know what type of example are you looking for, because it depends on the perspective. From the academic standpoint, we have already, because these countries, most of these countries, they have a standardized test, even though we are not we are, I wouldn't like to say that I'm against the standardized test because it's complicated, but we don't like the concept of a standardized test. Having said that, this is one of the measures that we have in retrospective, because this test has been done with schools before we got to that school. So we have like evidences that these schools in Spain, for instance, they were good performance schools in terms of the standardized test. And they were getting 87%, 88% before we start working with them. And after we work with them for over 7 years, they improve their results with this standardized test to 100%. It's what in Spain is called la selectividad. They went from 88, 89 to 100%. That is from that perspective. From the personal perspective, we have a lot of samples. Like a child, this was in Argentina, a child in a Saturday morning breakfast with his mother, he asked, "Mom, can we do a thinking routine?" I don't know if you are familiar with thinking routines. I don't have the time to explain that to you. But it's a process to develop thinking and so forth and so on. So the mother said, this kid was 6 years old. So mother said, okay. So she, for whatever reason, decided to start recording because she was aware of how the school was working in classrooms. So the child said, there is a thinking routine that is very famous, that is see, think, wonder. So the child said, I see you sad. The parents were getting divorced, were getting separated. So the kid said, I see you sad. I see my sad. I think that you are not having a good time. I think that you are suffering. I think that I'm suffering, and I am wondering what can I do to help. This was something that the mother brought to the school on a Monday with a recording on the cellular phone. So what I'm telling you is we are giving the children tools for life. He was able to articulate through this process his thinking and his feelings, using the thinking routine to articulate and to communicate and to try to solve a problem that he was facing at the time. So I don't know if I'm kind of responding. There are so many examples, but so I think that we don't have time for, unfortunately, we don't have the time. We have to.
Just one more question for you, and I think that was a great transition into my question. I know you all work with the schools, but just wondering how you bring it in the village of support with the parents, and you kind of touched on that, and it sounds like it's from the experience that the kids are having in the school. It came into the conversation with the parent, but is there a way that you guys bring the parents into this transformation of culture? Because I love that. See, think, and wonder. I believe those mindsets are really important for the parents and the village of support around a student.
So a short and fast, quick answer, yes. You have to work with the parents because it's a culture. The culture is within a community. So you have to work with the parents, and we have strategies, and the schools have the strategies to involve and to engage the parents in the process. Yes. So thank you very much. I don't want to take more time, so thank you for the questions and the time.